All right, 3 things today. 1, very good news. Number 2, some hard news that is practically almost impossible to endure. And then a caution. So, good news first. In our reading from the book of Wisdom, there's no God besides you. You have care of all. You show your might and your perfection, and you are the master of might. You judge with clemency, and with much lenience you govern us, for power, whenever you will, attends you. So you are the master of might, you judge with clemency, and you have much lenience in its governance to you. And they mention lenience a couple of times in this reading. The good news is that as children of God, we mess up and we screw up. And we do that sometimes quite often. Sometimes we can control ourselves. But nonetheless, we do things and we say things that we should do, should not do, and should not say. Sometimes we do it out of downright meanness. We know we're doing it and we choose to do it. No, okay, that's getting pretty bad. Sometimes we're just tired, we're hungry, whatever the occasion is, and we still say and do things we really don't mean to do, but they just slip out, and because of our own physical condition, we say things. Even in our own spiritual condition as well, things may not be going for us. A lot of stress on us, and with that stress, we say and do things that we are sorry for. The good news is that the Master of Might judges with clemency and leniency. He is a forgiving, patient God. So that means that all through our life, no matter what we've done, no matter how far we've gone bad, no matter what we've done to other people, and even how we've even hurt ourselves or others, if we do turn and we seek this God of forgiveness, He will show His forgiveness. He will show His leniency. He will show His kindness. That's the good news. And man, we need that. And so always hold on to that. It's a beautiful thing, and always hearken back to it, that our God is always there to do that for us. So that's the good news. And that will really help us through the next few things, because take a deep breath, because here we go. Because this next thing is going to be rough, and it's one of the roughest things ever to endure that comes from God. And here it is. God is lenient, He is patient, and He is forgiving. Now let me say that again. That was rough words. Y'all just sitting there like nothing. God is lenient, patient, and forgiving. Aha! What I said earlier was fine. Why? It's all about me. When I have sinned, when I have done something bad, and I truly ask for forgiveness, this wonderful God who shows lenience and kindness and forgiveness comes and says, yes, my son or my daughter, you have been restored. I forgive you. Come back into the fold. Do whatever. And that is great. But wait a minute. There's more to this. We live in a world where there's just more than one of us. And now, what happens to the people around us? What does God do to them? And here comes the problem. All of you are fine. Fine. If God wants to show you leniency, kindness, and forgiveness, everybody in here is fine. Why? Because y'all haven't done anything to me. None of you have screwed me. At least I don't see anybody who's screwed me in here. And that's fine. I'm fine for that. God could be as nice to you as He wants. Go for it. However, I have a list of those people. And we all have those people in our life where we deal with daily. And suddenly, this wonderful part of God who shows all this forgiveness and patience and leniency becomes a real pain in the butt, because he is showing the same thing to me, which I think I deserve, to a person who I think should not deserve it. As a matter of fact, I'm hoping, and sometimes I do hope, that some people are just downright punished, and they cannot get punished fast enough or hard enough. Now, we allow the news people to really whip us up, and we have to watch that. Obviously, we could just get whipped up by emotion, and we all become kind of a big gang and all of that kind of stuff, and we can see where that goes, and that is something important for us to watch out for. We can be easily manipulated into that. But at the same time, it's also in our daily conversations with each other when we start to get irritated and upset, is then suddenly things start to change. And then before you know it, some unkind words are starting to be exchanged, and some unkind thoughts are starting to be thought, and it can escalate pretty badly. And so now, this hard message that Jesus gives to us is that just as we are shown leniency and forgiveness in our own life, God is saying, I am going to give other people the same chance as I gave you. That is where we're going to have to take a deep breath and just suck it up and say, all right, I have nothing to do about that. And we really have no power over that. All Jesus is saying today is, I'm going to do it, whether you like it or not. So therefore, it is up to us to kind of go along with the plan as much as we can, which then leads to the caution. Very important here, because all this leads to the gospel reading. All right, you got all this wheat field, and then you got this weeds in the wheat field. The world is full of wheat and weeds, and God is saying, I'm not going to separate. So we are going to have to deal with weeds of the world. And some of the weeds are quite ugly. There's some pretty ugly, weedy people out there who can create some pretty ugly things in our life that could hurt us and hurt other people. And God is saying, once again, I'm not pulling them up. We wish that a lightning strike would zap them and be forever free of this one particular weed who is causing so much problems. But that is not the way that God operates. He will not do that, and He even says so. No, I'll do it all at the end. Okay, so, all right, so we know we can't, well, you could pray for that, but it just ain't going to happen. It's a waste of time. So what do? We have to be on guard, and here's the caution. When we interact, we have to watch ourselves, because most of the time we start out as great sheaves of wheat. I'm a great staff of wheat. I walk out, and what's so good about wheat? Wheat draws from the earth, grows this beautiful wheat that then is shared to other people. Wheat gives life. The very nature of wheat is to give life. And that is what wheat is all about. So when we get up to be followers of Christ, when we go out the door, we are to show Christ's love to all. We are to be Christ's life to others. That is what we're supposed to do, and that's the good wheat. What's about a weed? A weed grows up, and a weed really cares less about others. A weed grows up, and it's just all about the weed. The weed just is taking all the resources from the land, and it's just growing within itself, but gives nothing outward. There is no crop, there is no giving. It's only about the weed. So, we all start out as nice little weeds. But as the day gets going, and we get out there in the world, look out for the weeds next to you. Weeds like to make other weeds. And before you know it, if it all depends on what's going on in your life and, where you're at, but suddenly things can start to happen. You get irritated. Something has happened at work, or you've had a conversation that's not gone well, and before you know it, you might be in an argument. And before you know it, you might be talking about somebody. And before you know it, you might start making judgments. And before you know it, you can be saying some ugly things about some people. And you will be saying, man, I wish God would strike them down. And when we start saying that, we are the most wonderful weed in the field. So far, so we've just lost our weakness, and we've just taken on weedness. It's two hard words to distinguish there, but it's important. When I was pastor at St. Hedwig's Church in Chicago one year, and this is a very long story, which will be very short, is that we were having a big celebration, and I needed a tent company to put up these big tents in our parking lot. They did, but one of them was not done well, and it just wasn't done well. So by that afternoon when I got home, I saw their work, did not like it. You make a phone call. Don't like your work. Could you come back and, take care of it? They call back. Well, you didn't say this and that. I call back. Well, no, you should have done this. You should have did that. And it started. This phone battle started about, I would say, 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday, and did not end until probably about 9 p.m. on that evening of me and this one man. And what happened was, it got so personal and so ugly that people were pretty amazed. All my fellow people that were around me, priests and all that, were just amazed, as they'd never seen me. And I must admit, it was the first time I've ever been enraged. Enraged is, you get mad. Mad is one thing. Enraged is where you really don't give a damn about anything anymore. You just don't care. And, I would have, if I could have known that he would go to hell, and if I would go to hell just so that he would go to hell, I would have gone to hell. I would have done that. Because that is what rage is. You don't care anymore. Because the only thing that is worth is winning. And that was what was worth winning. I look back, we were the two most spectacular, magnificent weeds in the field. We were how some weeds just grow tall. In those few hours, me and that man grew up tall. And it was probably some of the worst things ever. And weeds come around too, and you get all this support of other weeds coming in, and you become kind of a field of weeds. And it was ugly. It was my fault. It was his fault, and it should never have gotten to where it gotten. All right, but it was sinful all the way, and it was weedness all the way, and there was absolutely nothing life-giving about it. We can find ourselves in that in a blink of an eye. We've got to watch ourselves. We do live in a world full of weeds. And the weeds, when they wrap around us, they want to turn us into weeds. We do not have to do that. We can make a decision, a willful decision, saying, no, I am going to be kind. Just as Jesus shows us forgiveness and leniency and patience, so too we have to do the same thing. And back to the first reading. When they're talking about God. But though you are the master of might, you judge with clemency, with much lenience, you govern us, for your power whenever you will attends you, and you taught your people by these deeds, for those who are just must be kind. All right, so how do we fight not being a weed, and how do we be good wheat, and how do we get along in the world? We do this by being kind. And when we show kindness, we show God's justice. And when we do that, we then have just a wealth of goodness that we could give to other people. And when we do that, when a weed comes up and tries to make us a weed, and we show kindness, here's something that miraculous can happen. Not all the time, but it could happen. The weed becomes a grain of wheat and joins with us. And that makes all the difference in the world.